one of the biggest things I didn't really understand about building muscle is the fact that you really have to tire the muscle out. If you really look at those who get significant muscle gains from working out, from exercise or resistance training, like literally they are tiring their muscles out. Like your muscle, you go beyond the point of muscle burn um to get those types of results. And the reason why is to change your muscle, you have to stimulate it, and you have to stimulate it sufficiently. Good morning. So, what I just thought about in recording this episode, or this video rather, is that there's something about muscle building that I've gotten wrong over the years. Um, Now, just to kind of preface that, when I was younger, when I was in high school, my twin brother and I, we would, a lot of times we go with our parents to like the local Barnes and Noble, because we just all like to read as a family. So we just kind of go in there and read. And what we would, me and my brother would a lot of times go to look at is like all the muscle magazines and stuff like that. Because as a young teenager, you want to build muscle, you want to build a lot of muscle. So you go and read the magazines that have like you know, um, Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler and Kevin Larone and all the big muscle builders of that time. Now, I don't know if I ever wanted to build that much muscle, but you look at those and you really do want to build a significant amount of muscle. Not necessarily being that big, but anyway, my point more so is I would look at those books and or those magazines and try to translate that stuff into my workouts. But there were some key things I was missing that I kind of want to outline. And I've gotten results as of late, but I'm still kind of working on getting the kind of results that I want to get. The main thing I want to get at is one of the biggest things I didn't really understand about building muscle is the fact that you really have to tire the muscle out. Now, what do I mean? And how is this going to apply to you who's listening to this? So, um the thing, if you really look at those who get significant muscle gains from working out, from exercise or resistance training, like literally they are tiring their muscles out. Like your muscle, you go beyond the point of muscle burn um to get those types of results. And the reason why is to change your muscle, you have to stimulate it, and you have to stimulate it sufficiently. And that's something I wasn't necessarily doing. I was, you know, lifting or doing my calisthenics and whatnot and doing it consistently. And so therefore I was getting results. However, for example, I would do like a set amount of repetitions. I kind of still do something similar to that, but I wasn't necessarily doing stuff like going to failure or like doing the repetitions, until like I almost felt like I couldn't do any more, like for real, and then coming back and doing more and doing more. Now there is an aspect there you can get into, I guess, quote, overtraining, so to speak, where you kind of train so much and you break your muscle down so much that you can actually kind of you can injure yourself So you don't want to do that. You want to allow for recovery. Um, but like for example, if you've ever been interested, if you're a guy and you've been interested in gaining muscle, you may have seen, um, CT Fletcher, who's a very popular YouTube muscle guy. He has a powerlifting past, and he doesn't really do that so much now. He kind of trains people out of his gym out in California. But my point is, he's really big on like ultra high intensity and really tired the muscle. And in his heyday, his arms were just huge. But he had a workout that I saw him with do with a couple other guys where they had loaded up a 45-pound bar like they're doing bench press. They loaded up a 45-pound bar with a whole lot of I think 5-pound weights on each side. I don't know, it might have been like 20 of them on each side or something crazy like that. And so I can't remember how much weight it was. And so literally they started out with all those fives on each side, and then the guys did a set amount of repetitions. And then immediately five was stripped off of each side. And then they did however many repetitions again, stripped off another five, did the amount of repetitions again. That's called like drop setting. And so they did that until they took all the weights off, and then you're just doing a 45-pound bar with however many repetitions. I want to say it was like 10 or 20 reps each time. Now, granted, when they got to the point that they had stripped all the weight off, then those muscles are just screaming. And then they start to stack the weights back on and still do those same amount of repetitions. And that is a muscle stimulus, if no other. Now, I understand that this may not necessarily be attractive to some of you. It speaks to me because I know that while I stimulated my muscle, I wasn't necessarily stimulating it sufficiently. Like here recently, I started to do a tricep workout where I may have posted about this recently, where I would do like a set of chair dips, where you put your arms on the chair and then you put your feet on a chair. And it's actually very easy, but I just do a lot of repetitions till I can't do almost anymore. Then I immediately go to the tiger push-up, which is another tricep exercise, and do a few reps of those. And I keep on doing that. Like the key is stimulate your muscle. Don't just um do something just to say that you did it. Like, okay, well, I just did 5 reps. Like if you want to grow muscle, you got to stimulate the muscle. And that is what I have learned even more recently in all my years of being a personal trainer and all my years of doing strength training. This is something that I'm really kind of getting to understand, and something that I kind of ignored for a long time. I was even, I was increasing my caloric intake back in my 20s, and I got a little bigger from that, but I wasn't necessarily really and truly stimulating my muscle. So the point I want to make is, if you want to get results from your training, you really actually have to stimulate the muscle. It's not just enough to do, okay, well, 2 sets of 10, and then you're done. Now, if you're just trying to maintain, or you're not really concerned so much about really advancing, then just getting the movement in is fine. But if you want to grow muscle, if you want to get stronger, you really have to stimulate it. You have to challenge it beyond what it's used to. And when I say challenge it, especially when it comes to building muscle, you really got to get a lot of volume in there. You got to get a lot of what they call time under tension, where you really stimulate the muscle beyond what it's used to. That way it'll come back and it'll be like, okay, we really got to grow for this. So I'll probably go in depth more so with some of my more targeted muscle related posts where I'm actually exercising. I might do one today. But that's the main thing I want to say. If you're not getting results from your strength training, then it probably means you're not really stimulating your muscles enough. Now you got to make sure you're eating well and eating enough. You got to make sure that you're recovering as well. You can't always train, but you also really have to stimulate the muscle. I haven't had issues, I think, with the nutrition side or the recovery side. I think my issue has been with adequate muscle stimulation. So if this, helps you, make sure you leave a comment or whatever. Otherwise, y'all have a good morning. If you like this content, you might also be interested in one of my books. Learn how you can take steps literally today to successfully manage, control, and overcome common issues such as high blood pressure, diabetes, and belly fat. It's all about putting power back in your hands to improve your own health. Get your book copy today by the links in the description or by visiting seanmcclennan.com/books. Also, don't forget, hit the like button and subscribe, and join my email list at seanmcclennan.com/subscribe.